Do you need me to drip some faucets? I asked him, I said, do you need, the trash comes out on that street on Wednesday. You want me to go put the trash cans out? Literally from phone. And, this guy's like, if he's already take care of a property that I told him that I'm not going to sell, then you gotta give the kid a chance. You just gotta give the kid a chance. Like, you have to.
You're listening to the Texas Real Estate Podcast. If you're looking to build cash flow, break free of the 9-to-5, and take control of your financial future, you are in the right place.
This is the Texas Real Estate Podcast, episode number 5. I'm Matt Williams. This is my co-host.
That's more accurate.
We'll get it right one of these days.
Yeah.
I got a couple of notes here about Lawrence, the guy that we just met with. These were the things that popped out of the background for me. I think he has an interesting story. He came from a pretty hard gradient. He came from a background that was impoverished. He climbed his way up through college and got into property investing. And he's early in his career, but tenacity has definitely been one of his big pointers. And it's something that's led to a lot of his success.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to like his story quite a bit. I think that he did what we've kind of been preaching, is that he just did it. He took a step, right? He took a chance. He went from doing nothing to doing something, and I think that it's the one thing that he did that separates everybody that never does it.
And with that, let's bring in Lawrence. And Lawrence, thanks for coming on. You've done the most important and often the scariest thing in the life of a residential real estate investor. And that is you went 0 to 1. So talk to us a little bit about what brought you here today. What was the moment that changed you from I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing to I'm going to do something different?
Okay. Well, there's always a great saying that you start with your why, why are you wanting to do something, and that drives you, and if you're extremely passionate about it, it gets you out of bed when you don't want to get up early. It makes you do things that you prefer not doing. And for me, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I was actually born in the projects, and I was raised by a single mother. My father was not around. And for me, environment is so important. So even though I lived in what society would say throwaway environment, because it, was around crime and drugs, and it was the epitome of poverty. However, my mother was big on exposure. So she pretty much let me and my siblings know that just because we were in that area, we did not have to be a product of that environment. We didn't have to act like everyone else in that environment that had, not the best behaviors. So with that being said, for her, education was extremely important. So she was able to, as a janitor, work several jobs to send me to private Catholic schools in New Orleans because they were better than the public schools. And when I would leave the poverty environment, I would be driven through these neighborhoods, something that I had never seen before. The white picket fence, the mom, the dad, the 2 cars or whatsoever. And I was going to school with classmates whose parents were doctors, lawyers, business owners. And I just remembered, why didn't I have that type of environment as well? Why wasn't I able to live in a nice neighborhood or a suburb? So, I'm still thankful that my mom, at that time, she had to have housing for us, but I thank her most for the exposure, because I said, whatever it takes to live there, that's what I want when I'm an adult, and that's what I would want for my children. And the word generational wealth popped in my head. And for me, I don't come from wealth like most of the top millionaires and stuff of that nature, which I'm not at that mark yet. But for me, it was generational wealth. I knew that I want to leave something bigger than me. I want to leave a legacy. At this time, I do not have children, but I do have nieces and nephews. And so I want to, make sure that the generations that come behind me, whether it be my children or my great nieces and nephews, that they don't have to be born into poverty like I was. Like, and they didn't have to go through living in something that wasn't pleasant. So that was my why. My why has always been to own properties. I love the game Monopoly. For me, I knew that it was, buying real estate, to be honest. So the reason why I jumped in was generational wealth.
That's great. Generational wealth. Yeah. I'd have to say that for me, Monopoly, man, I resonate with that. Monopoly was my favorite game growing up. I couldn't get people to play with me at a certain point.
Yeah. And then some people they're not the best at losing, so they would just throw the board games or whatsoever. But I love the thought process of having income come in. Every time you go around that Monopoly game, if you strategically set yourself up, you're going to get an income. You're going to get an income. And I think some people are just so afraid to start small, but they have to realize that everything big started small. And they fall into the analysis paralysis. They fall into, I have to spend millions of dollars on coaching and stuff of that nature. And it's like, just go do it. Just go do it. Be smart about it. Do your research, but just go do it. But if you don't have a why, you're not going to do what you say.
I think that's a good idea, because I think a lot of people play Monopoly, if you think about it, and they skip those first couple properties, right? They skip those cheap blue ones. And they think, I'm going to go all the way to the red and the green and the yellow, right? But someone's got to buy those blue ones, right? I want to buy the blue ones because I eventually can buy the yellow and red ones.
Exactly. Everyone wants to start off with Parkway Place and Boardwalk. Everybody wants to have the highest. And for me, it's you start off with the little 1, 2, 3, 4, then you scale up.
All right. So you played Monopoly. You come from a background in which you've been really blessed in many ways by your mother and the decision that she made to help point you in a different direction. It sounds like, from what you're saying, and it resonates for me. When I went to college, I was in the student co-ops, and there were a bunch of people in the student co-ops that came from different backgrounds, and then they found themselves with these people that were all on the same path in a way, right? They're like, oh, this is just a different track. Okay, hang on. And then people that never would have dreamed of going to grad school or whatever ended up, I saw so over and over again, just the environment changed it. So you're in this new environment.
Mm-hmm.
You have this background and love for the idea of real estate. And then where do you go from there?
Of course, I'm a huge nerd. I put that in my bio. So I knew that I wanted at least a college degree. I wanted the college experience. I wanted to live on campus. I wanted to be in, all of the extracurricular activities and stuff of that nature. So I was very blessed to be able to attend Nicholls State University. So I wanted to at least get a degree under my belt. I was en route to go to law school, but I did not go to law school. My first step was to get a degree. And I know that's like the opposite of what so many investors say, that you don't have to get a degree. You're not rich dad and poor dad and all of that stuff. But for me, I knew a degree was going to open me up to certain jobs. And my goal is to use my 9 to 5, my W-2 income from my earned income, to turn it into passive income. And so many opportunities came out of attending Nicholls State University. Two of the biggest opportunities was one. I was a political science major, so I was a intern for the House of Representatives at the Louisiana State Capitol. And then I also studied abroad at the University of Plymouth. So I was able to live in London and Plymouth for a whole entire summer for free. Well, I mean, I worked hard. I had a 4.0. So there was work in there.
Right. You were hungry for it. So you have that ambition, that motivation.
Yes.
And so then you used that college degree and got a 9-to-5 desk job, and then you worked it for 50 years or 40 years, and they gave you a gold watch, and that was the story.
Not my narrative. I'm writing.
So where did you go? How did you now leverage those skills or because, by the way, that's not typical, right? People that do that then are like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm like climbing. I got my steps and I'm just going to climb it. Now,
yeah,
obviously you're not a full-time real estate investor yet. You're dipping your toe in the water. But where's that moment where I'm always looking for that moment when you grab two sides of the cord and stuck them together?
When I was at Nicholls State University, I worked in student housing. I started my way from being like a desk worker in the dorms or residence halls, assistant hall director, and worked my way up. And when I graduated college, I didn't go to law school, so I needed a job. And when I look back on my resume, I had been working in student housing for 4 years. And so someone was like, hey, you should, get into, multifamily, like, renting, leasing and marketing. And I was like, no. And they were like, well, you already really did it already. And I remember there were some investors on campus who were taking a look at the college at that time, and they were trying to figure out, what students wanted because they were going to build privatized housing. And the guy gave me his card and was like, "You're phenomenal. I think that you can sell anyone anything." And I started working in student housing. That led me to Austin, Texas. So in Austin, Texas, I was able to work for 2 publicly traded student housing companies as a leasing and marketing director. And I was pretty much making them millions of dollars. I sat down with millionaires, and it's, there's that joke that goes around that says, hey, Johnny, if you see that Lamborghini out there, if you keep doing well, I'm going to park another Lamborghini right next to it. And I was like, whoa, if I'm doing this for other people, why can't I do it? Like, why can't I bet on myself? Like, why can't I be an investor? Because I was doing leasing and marketing. That was my aha moment. I was like, you have to do it. And so that year was 2018. I told a buddy of mine, I'm not renewing my apartment, and I'm going to move about an hour away from Austin, and I'm going to buy a house. My bank account didn't really look like it. My credit really didn't look like it, but I started. So that was my aha moment in 2018 when I said, I can't keep making other people millionaires without being able to make me a millionaire.
You're looking at your bank account. It doesn't necessarily hit what the typical person would expect for what you're about to do. And then what do you do next?
I knew that if I stayed in that particular job in the area, that it wasn't going to happen because of the entry points to buy in the area in Austin. So for me, in 2018, I called a buddy of mine who was my personal trainer. He was a new realtor. And I said, hey, I'm buying a house. I said, I'm not renewing my lease. And he calls me LB. And he's like, LB, he was like, in Austin? And I was like, no, I can't afford Austin. And so I was like, these places. And he's like, but you don't have a job out there? You don't know anyone out there? I was like, something's telling me I got to take a chance. And my bank account didn't look like I was about to be a real estate investor. My credit didn't look like I was going to be a real estate investor. But I said, I have to take this leap of faith. I said, I am not renewing my lease. And I just started to plug in price points in certain websites. And I said, I have to go there. And that started my monopoly effect. And I knew I had to be here.
So was your first house your house that you bought to live in?
Yes. So
Okay.
my first house was is my primary residence, and it was 2018. People were telling me not to buy, or people were saying. Now, I'm one where I don't tell people what I'm doing, so they didn't know I was buying. Like, my family and friends did not know I bought a house until I posted it on social media. Just because I don't need the distractions. I don't need, like, if I make a decree, if I say I'm going to do something, it's not a matter of if, but when. If I say I'm doing it, I'm doing it. That's just point blank, period. I'm not letting anyone talk me out of it. So the only people who knew I was buying a house was me, my realtor, and my lender. Didn't do the house hacking way for me personally. So I always tell people, don't be discouraged if you don't do house hacking. It's not for everyone. From me being in residence life so long, I didn't want to live like joined next to someone in a duplex and a fourplex. So I bought a single family home, 3% down. The house was on the market for 150 days, which is definitely not this market. That's why I knew it had to be for me. I got some seller closing costs concession, which is not this market in 2022. And I bought it. 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, about close to 1,100 square feet, garage, 1/9 of an acre, corner lot. In less than 3.5 years, the property value doubled.
Yeah.
So nice. I bought it for under 70, and it's worth like 150 in less than 3.5 years. Even though this first property was my primary residence, I ran numbers as if it was an investment. So I ran the numbers for my cash on cash return. I ran the numbers on how much it would cash flow because I did a market analysis of the rents. So I went in buying this as an investor. I didn't go in as a retail buyer. Most retail buyers are looking at, the countertops are so adorable and the cabinets. I'm like, okay, is this close to a school? How close is this to the park? Like, is this close to jobs? Like, how is it cash flowing? Like, I went in with the mindset of like, this is going to actually become a rental. And so for me, I didn't think that it was going to appreciate so fast. So now it's an equity piggy bank. Now I can use equity in it to fund other deals. And that's amazing to say that, it doubled in 3.5 years. So I'm glad I didn't listen to people who said not to buy.
Yeah. So 3.5 years, you got some cash in it. Have you taken a HELOC or refinanced?
I have not.
Not yet. Okay.
It's there. Not there. Yeah. I've been fortunate enough that I have not had to touch it. So for my second deal, which was my actual first investment property, I didn't have to touch it.
All right. So you're living in property, we'll call it property A or property 1. You're living in property 1. You're putting in time and grade. You're doing the regular day-to-day job. Mm-hmm. And then you've saved enough capital to buy an investment property?
Yes.
So talk to me about that. Was that always the goal?
Yeah, of course. That was always the goal. At first I thought I was going to be a person that, I buy a house, I live in it for a year or two, then move on to the next. That was kind of like my thought process or whatsoever. But I have, without saying my goals, because I don't like to have my goals out public because they're private, but I have goals and benchmarks of like, I want to have these many properties this year or whatsoever. And as you know, with 2020, things happened and prices went up. So I was just like, I don't know if I want another primary. Like, it may be best to try to just look for an investment.
All right, talk to us about the deal.
My credit was way better. My credit was better than previously because I was paying off some debt, and my income was, slowly increasing. But it wasn't going to be enough just with one job to make it happen in the time frame I wanted. So I started a side gig. So I started food delivering. And I was doing that for from 2019 until now. So almost like 3 years. And in 2020, we know what happened in 2020 with, places being shut down or whatever. So I was an essential worker, and I worked. I worked in 2020. I worked my 9 to 5. I'll get off at about 5:30 p.m. and I would do that job from like 6 p.m. to 8, 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. On Saturday and Sunday, I'll do about 8 to 10 hours. And I saved up a good amount of thousands of dollars in 2020, at the end of 2020. And I was just like, whoa, I can't just have this money sitting in the bank. Like, I need to deploy it for an investment property. So I was actually driving. So almost driving for dollars, but I was actually doing my job. I was making deliveries. And that's one thing that I liked about doing the side hustle of doing the food deliveries was it was forcing me to drive for dollars, because within almost 2.5 years, I knew all neighborhoods. Like, people could see a street and I'm like, I wouldn't buy over there. Like, oh, that's prime real estate. And I had just dropped off a delivery, and it's a property that's literally like almost behind my first one. It was vacant, and I was like, that would make a good rental. It seemed like it was a rental. That would make a good rental. And I was driving one night, and there was a truck out there. So I was like, okay, it's either the owner or a contractor. I gotta stop. I have to stop. And so it was like maybe like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I stopped at the property, rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, and a guy opened the door. I was like, hi, like, I'm Lawrence. Are you the owner? And he said, no, I'm not the owner. But I can put you in touch with them. And that's like the greatest thing that any real estate investor could hear, is like, oh, I don't have to mail out letters to find owners and stuff of that nature. And the contractor pretty much put me in contact with the owner of the property, and I let that person know that I was a novice, a new real estate investor, and we did the deal off market. So it was not a realtor involved. A deal off market in this time is the best, because the biggest thing is cutting out competition. So I had to win this property owner over, and this property owner was just like, I was tenacious, I was determined, and we worked out a deal. It was a win for the owner, and it was a win for me. And I literally own like the house that's behind my first one. So it's like Monopoly.
So talk to me about numbers. You bought the first one, you said 75-ish.
Under 7. Yeah, under 70. It was under 70. Mm-hmm.
Okay, under 70. Now it's at 150. So you didn't buy the other one for 150. I'm taking it.
Oh no. I bought the other one under 70 too.
3 years later.
Yes.
Was he looking to sell already?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't looking to sell. And so the biggest thing, so this house is larger. So this is, my primary is a 3-1. So of course it's going to be worth more. And the rental, the investment property, is a 2-1. So it's not like it's the exact type. But the owner was not looking, I really wasn't looking to sell. It was just a matter of, me putting myself out there and letting the owner know that I really want to get into, real estate investing, like actually get the investment property, even though I count both properties as investments, because again, I bought the first one as from an investor standpoint or viewpoint. I didn't buy it as a retail person.
So tell us a little bit about what you had to do to it.
To get it prepared, really? Yeah. So as far as that property, I came in where the owner had already like put down new carpet, had already freshly painted the property. So I pretty much was able to get a turnkey ready property. So the only thing I had to do was I put some lighting on the property to make it more well lit. Again, the owner had no intention of selling. The owner had some tenants that had been there for some years, and the tenants outgrew the space. They needed bigger space. They were long-term tenants, so the property owner was going in, putting new carpet down, repaint it, and it was going to go up as a rental. And then I came in. I came in and was like, hey, like, have you thought about selling this? No. Do you want to sell this? No. Well, I'm a new real estate investor. I'm new. I'm new to getting a actual investment property. I have did research on investment properties. I did the groundwork, and if you would ever think about selling, please let me know. And it took a while. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, we had an initial conversation in October, and like the beginning of October, and the middle of December, the property owner was like, okay, young man, like, I think I'm gonna sell it. Do you want it? And I was like, of course, and he threw out a number, and that number worked well. And it worked out well for both of us. So for me, what I learned through that is that everything is up for negotiation. Even if someone says that, or even if someone is literally thinking that they're not going to sell their property, they may. That's why I never think that somebody would never sell anything, because everything has a price and everything could be up for negotiation. Some people would say I had all the odds against me. They would have said, you're asking somebody to sell their property that they don't have to sell because it's not distressed. They are not financially in a financial hardship. You're not a cash buyer. Like, literally everything will point to, you can't do this, you can't do this. Like, there's no way. But I remembered, 3 years ago when I bought my primary, every odd was against me.
There's a couple of things that I really like about what you're saying. One of them is, and this goes back to people that are on platforms for investing, like Bigger Pockets. You see a lot of posts where people are trying to find a deal. Hey, are there any deals? I can't find any deals. What do I do? And I get it. We've all been there. And a lot of them, I haven't done that many posts on BP, but I've had a bunch of people message me like, hey, what do I do? I'm like, oh, wow. I don't know. Go talk to Jeff Bateman. That's what you should do. But then I've gone back and forth, and I've had people be like, oh, yeah. Okay, cool. And then they like have a whole bunch of questions, and they're, oh, okay. And then 6 months goes by and there's nothing, right? There's nothing. Very few people are going to go knock on that door. Very few people are going to knock on that door because someone's going to say no. Right. And one of the things that I like that Brandon Turner says regularly, success shouldn't be a surprise, right? If you're putting in the time, if you're taking the chance, shouldn't be a surprise. So along that, what was your due diligence process like with this person? You had the first call. Do you want to sell? No. Okay. Did you put a mark on the calendar to follow up? Did they reach out to you? Was there persistence required on your part? Yeah.
I followed up. I followed up. For me, I'm not afraid to fail. Like, I rather would have failed on that deal and look back and be like, I tried, and what did I learn from it? Like, at least I tried. And so I think that's what's going to separate me from any investor that has cash, is that I'm not, or doesn't have any money, is that I'm not afraid to fail. Now, of course, I have a background in leasing and sales. So I have literally authored ways to follow up with people, because usually the person is not going to give you the first yes. Usually the answer is normally no. So the initial contact was like, hey, I'm a new investor in the area. I would love to, network with you to learn more about the market from, a landlord side of things. And the guy, the property owner was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like we'll be in touch. Maybe we can get, coffee or something. Then I'll be in town around this time. So I followed up again, and the owner was like, yeah, like I'll be around or whatever, whenever I'm in the area or whatsoever. And so I was like, okay, what am I leaving out? I'm not letting this guy know that I want his property. Like he just thinks that I'm just this new investor that wants to like network or whatever, which I do. That's completely honest, but I want your property. And then I was like, by the way, I got your contact information from your contractor at that particular address, and I would be interested in buying it. And he immediately called me. It went from text to call and was like, hey, you're interested in da da da. Well, I'm not thinking about, selling it at all, but you can come see it. So I went to go see it maybe like a few weeks later, and, took a tour of the property, and it was still a no. And so because it was so close to my house, that was my advantage. So I would purposely do my walks in the neighborhood around the time that I knew he was going to be there. And that was one of the things that he said won him over, was that you were like, hey, don't forget about me, new investor that wants to start. Hey. And I even went and I remember because he's very involved in his properties. And I remember his contractor couldn't work a few days or whatever. And I said, oh, I can come help you paint. Oh, I can come help you do this.
You didn't.
No, I literally went there. I'll never forget. I was able to peek like down the street and see his truck. So I went in and I was like, let me go change into like my active wear or whatever. And I'm just walking. I'm like, hey, I'm just painting in here, whatever, painting. And because my contractor, I was like, okay, I can help you paint. I'm ready to paint. I said, I don't know much about, flooring and stuff, but I can help you with that. And I said, I just want you to know, I want the experience. And he said, no, I got it under control. But what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? He just started pointing out certain things that that more of a person who had been in the game longer would know about or whatever. And I think he liked that. I think that's what won him over, was the follow up. That I stayed persistent. Persistent. And I was doing my due diligence. And so, yeah. So my due diligence was, definitely following up. I have a bookshelf of books, so I've read most of the ones. I can say most of the books or whatever. But I had already started to run numbers on comps. And I think it was the way I followed up. It wasn't just like, I want to buy your house, I want to buy your house, I want to buy your house. It was like, if I can't buy your house, then let me learn from you, which is priceless. Because people's time is of value. You can't buy time back.
Yeah, I will say I've never offered to paint someone's house in that sort of
told
context.
You that exactly, that told you, I'm not selling you my house. And then also, it would be to the point where, so we're in Texas, and we had the Texas snowstorm. I said, hey, do you need me to go? Because it had a lockbox on there. I was like, do you need me to go drip some faucets? Do you need me to go drip some faucets? I asked him. I said, do you need? The trash comes out on that street on Wednesday. You want me to go put the trash cans out? Literally from phone. And this guy's like, if he's already take care of a property that I told him that I'm not going to sell, then you gotta give the kid a chance. You just gotta give the kid a chance. Like, you have to.
Yeah, you absolutely do. At that point, you're pretty much committed, at least throwing it out for that guy to take a look at it, for sure.
Yes.
So where are we at now? You got that. What's your next step?
My next step is one. I'm most excited about. Like just telling people that they can do it. Whatever you do, people are going to be negative. So if you post something, it's going to be, oh, you're bragging. If you post something, someone will be like, oh my God, says expiring. I post stuff because I want to look back and be like, I knew I did that and I can do it again. So I don't know if you all had seen any of my YouTube videos, but I have buddies that work in film. So I was like, every closing, I want to film it. And I want it over the top. I want it to be a production. Like something that I can look back on when I'm a millionaire, when I have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, when I'm up there with the big names, I can be like, oh, that was me in 2018. I was in that video broke. I probably charged my meal after that closing, to be honest. But I did that and I documented that. I did that and I documented that. And so I received so much support and questions from people. I'm very grateful that Bigger Pockets reached out to me. I mean, me. And was like, we want to put you on our Facebook and our Instagram. I was like, you want to do what? And they were like, well, your photo is going viral. Like your photo is going viral on our rookie Facebook group, on the Bigger Pockets fan group. I mean, literally, I think I have the most likes in both of those groups, like over 1,000, like 300 comments or whatever, because it's written about my why. Generational wealth. It only takes that one family member to start generational wealth, and I'm that person. That's my why, all summed up. And so it went viral. And someone from their social media, who runs their social media, sent me a message and said, hey, we would like to have you on our Instagram and our Facebook social media. I was like, great. And then that opened up more people. Most people are being interviewed when they're up there. Or I should say, some people want to interview the Brandon Turners and all that, but the Brandon Turners had to start off at the Lawrence Briggs level.
No question. No question. Not only did they start off there, but it's easy for people when you talk to or you listen to folks that are doing big multi-million dollar, tens of million dollar syndication deals. Mm-hmm. It's cool to hear. It's cool to see the cars. It's cool to see the big deals and the signature by the pool. But the truth is, most people don't start off there. And that first step, the one that you've made, is opening the doors for you. What is a book or business podcast that you would recommend that has helped you progress in your career?
Oh, wow. Look at my bookshelf. It has to be one. That's so hard. That's hard. Because it's kind of like a rest. It's kind of like making a dish. It's like you just don't put salt in it. You have salt, pepper. So it's. And you said one book and one podcast that has changed.
A book or a podcast, something that was impactful to you in your career.
I would have to say Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like I would have to say that. If I'm being, 100% transparent, it would be Rich Dad Poor Dad. Because I knew that just having a job alone wouldn't create wealth. Like I knew that. And I know it's actually Robert Kiyosaki saying or whatsoever that, the wealthy or the rich create wealth. And they always ask a verb of like, I can't, but how? And that's always been my thought process. Like, I'm never going to say I can't. It's going to be how. Like, if I would have went into that deal saying I can't buy this house because this guy told me no, it was how can I get this guy to say yes? So it would be definitely Rich Dad Poor Dad will be the book that I would say sums everything up. Podcast wise, I would say Bigger Pockets. I do like the Rants and Gems show. Rants and Gems is kind of like a more of a newer podcast. But I would say Bigger Pockets. I honestly have been more active with reading the forums than actually listening and watching the podcast. If I'm being 100% transparent, but yeah, I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I would say bigger pockets. But like now one of my big favorite podcast is the Rant and Jim Show, and then also now the Texas Real Estate Podcast, because I did not know about this, and this is just so exciting and cool because everyone wants to buy in Texas.
We know.
Definitely.
I mean, we're a landlord state. We don't have state taxes. Like,
if you could give someone an elevator pitch on what they think they do start off with, what advice would you give someone who you meet an elevator and you got 30 seconds to tell them to start off?
Use whatever money you're making to make you more money.
Awesome, Lawrence. Well, listen, it's been great sitting down with you, digging in, and taking a minute to hear your story. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you
so much thank you all so much for having me. Like I said, I'm very appreciative. This is my first podcast of hopefully many, so it was an honor, and especially because it's a Texas-based one. I think that's really cool to have something that's state focused, because I feel like Texas is where everyone wants to at least have some form of real estate.
Join us next time for another episode of the Texas Real Estate Podcast, your source for everything Texas real estate.